Hello everyone. Welcome to Confident Parent Toolbox Summit. On this episode, I have with me Sonali Vongushir, who is going to talk to us about three keys to calming your angry child and saving your sanity in the process. Wow, what a brilliant topic this is going to be. But before I introduce Sonali, I would like to remind you, if you haven't purchased your VIP, please do, because I'm going to run through what you are going to get in your VIP pass. First and foremost, you will have unlimited access to the interviews with all the featured speakers. And you will also get amazing gifts from over 20 speakers. And we're also organizing a masterclass for AI because it's such an interesting topic now that parents can't just fold their hands. They need to know about AI prompting, how to prompt properly, and then help them with their parenting journey. And also, we has also compiled 100 tips for parenting, something short tips uh for your parenting journey that you can always refer to from time to time. So these are all brilliant stuff that we have put together for you if you are able to get your VIP. Without wasting much of the time, I'm now going to invite Sonali and then we start the interview. Hello, Sonali. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Rachel.
And
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank
thank
you
you
for
very
having me.
Oh, thank you very much. Um, you are going to talk on the three keys to calming angry child and saving sanity. Please, but before then, can you briefly introduce yourself in 1 or 2 minutes so that the audience will know who you are? Thank you.
Absolutely. What I like to say is that I support parents who have strong-willed, sensitive kids. And the core of my work is finding a way to meet both your needs and your kids' needs. Because for me, when I came to parenting and parenting my kids, the typical parenting strategies, the peaceful parenting strategies, the other strategies, they were really solid and they sounded really good when I heard them, but they just didn't work practically in my home the way the experts said that they did. So I found myself in this position where they were saying, "Oh, play with your kid to build connection," and I felt like there was no amount of like I would play and play and play and play until I reached that point where I was like, but I couldn't maintain it. Or they'd say, "Listen to emotions," and I would listen and listen and listen, but I didn't feel like we were getting anywhere. And it wasn't until I figured out how to step off. I was on this emotional roller coaster with my kids where I was putting their needs above mine. Like, okay, what do they need? What do they need? What do they need? Until I reached a tipping point, then I'd snap and I'd be like, you know what? What do I need? I'd feel really bad about that. There would be guilt coming up. The moment that came up, I'd go back to what do they need? And I put their needs above mine. And what that did is it kept us on this emotional roller coaster. Instead, what I support parents in doing, and I'm really passionate about, is how can we bring your needs and your child's needs together? And then that way, then you can move forward together, which is the name of my company, in a way that is stable, in a way that is sturdy, in a way that is solid, in a way that is satisfying, in a way where you're like, huh, this is maintainable, it's sustainable. And so it nourishes both your child and it nourishes you. So that is what I'm on a mission to support parents with.
Wow. Thank you. So you're going to break that down for us now. So my first question is, what is underneath child's anger?
I think that's a really great question. So, first of all, anger is one of those complicated emotions. And I love to talk about it because the moment our child gets angry, we're like, oh my gosh, make it stop. Because many of us don't know how to make anger a safe experience. Even for many of us, we might have been like, okay, we avoid conflict. We just don't want to we don't want to go there. So we've gotten so used to squashing our anger ourselves. So when our kids are angry, here's the thing: anger is a powerful emotion. And what it needs then is, because it's such a powerful emotion, to get the balance, it needs a powerful response to it, not a powerful reaction, which is what it usually gets. Does that make sense? It needs a power. It means it needs you to have the clarity and crispness in your action. But what we tend to do, and our kids tend to do, is they react to the anger because it's so powerful in their body. They don't know what to do with that. So it explodes all over the place. The thing is, anger is a really vulnerable emotion because underneath anger, there are two things. There's fear and there's needs. And if I put that together in a sentence, there's a fear that your child has fear that their needs won't get met. And so when we're talking about, when I go into these 3 keys to calming your angry child, it's really about, let's start with like acknowledging that, because that is why the anger gets really explosive. That is why anger is also scary for us to be around, because there's fear wrapped up underneath of it.
Wow. Okay. Why does labeling the emotion not work with some kids, and what to do instead? Because you emphasize on emotion now. So why
Yes,
is it that is not working with some kids, and what can
yes,
you do instead?
yes. So like there's really solid sound advice out there that says, oh, if you name it, like name it to tame it. Have you heard that, Rachel?
Uh, Repeat that again. Name it and then.
Name it to tame it.
Okay. To be honest, I've not heard that. Yes, but maybe
Okay.
you might have heard
Okay.
it.
So that's the idea that if you say, oh, it seems like you're angry,
Okay.
then somebody will calm down because they'll be like, yeah, I am angry. That doesn't work with strong willed kids because they're like, no, I'm not. You're angry. And so they tend to respond like that. And this comes down to safety. What's happened is anger has become such a charged emotion that
Mm,
there isn't safety in, like, if somebody acknowledges that you're angry, it doesn't feel like they're acknowledging you. It feels like they're calling you out. Does that make sense? So it actually erodes safety to say something like, oh, you seem angry, so instead, what we want to do, and here's the first key is about diffusing your child's anger. So you want to diffuse that anger. And what we're going to do is we're going to acknowledge the fear instead of actually using the word anger. So we're going to just eliminate your child responds if you're like, oh, you seem angry, you seem upset. Then let's not go there. Let's not use those words. Take those words out of your vocabulary for right now. And we're just going to set them aside because your sensitive, strong willed child is probably exploding like, I'm not angry. What are you saying is angry? I'm not angry. And so we're just going to take those words out. And instead, we're going to acknowledge the fear in general. And so I have like an expression that I use for this. And what I'll do is I'll share 1 or 2 different ways that you can acknowledge anger without actually saying a thing about anger.
okay.
Okay. Um, so so what I want to do is I want to share the fear underneath. So the fear underneath, let's say a child is angry. Let's say they just yelled at their sibling. Okay.
Mm,
Their fear and then they're getting angrier in that moment, like they're, and maybe they're yelling at their sibling more. Their fear is that they're in trouble. Does
mm-hmm,
that make sense?
mm-hmm.
So that's the fear. They may have a fear that, oh, if their parent comes in the room, oh, now I'm in trouble. So we can acknowledge that fear. We can soothe it by acknowledging that fear. Hey, no one's in trouble. I'm glad I'm here. Let's sort this out. So no one's in trouble. And that's a great way to, I didn't say anything about anybody being angry. I just said, no one's in trouble. And then let's figure out what's going on here.
Right. Mm. So, okay. So, what are the three keys to calming an angry child now that you're going to?
Okay. Absolutely. So key number 1 is diffuse that anger. Because here's the thing, when we're working with our child's anger, we have a lot of fear, a lot of parallel fear about their anger, right? So let me acknowledge. So the first fear is, this is going to be big, right? So
Mm,
the first key is to diffuse that anger without ever saying the word anger. We just want to, it's like we're taking off the charge from that anger. The second fear that we parents can have and caregivers is, oh my gosh, we're going to be stuck in this cycle of anger forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Because this might be if you have that child where you're like, they're having these explosions And the advice says, oh, over time they'll go down. But we don't see that happening. Or we feel it's really hard right now because the explosions are so big. So the second is, how do we break that cycle of anger? There is a difference between a purging of an emotion, which is bleh, it comes out, and a processing of emotion. In a purging of emotion, you end up back, it's like you end up back on that anger cycle again and again. So it's not actually processing the emotion. To process the emotion, we want to meet the need that's underneath. So there's a way to do that. So if you meet the need that's underneath that anger, remember I said fear and needs, then you step off of that cycle of anger. And the third fear is that when our child gets angry, we will get sucked into the emotional quicksand that anger can be, meaning that this could last for 30 minutes to an hour to a couple hours. It could last until the end of the day. And the parent's hope is just that, oh, well, tomorrow morning when we wake up, that'll be the reset. Does that make sense? I guess today is, we got to write today off, but we'll start again tomorrow. And that is often why the fear accumulates around anger, because we're like, oh, if we touch anger, we feel like we get stuck and sucked in it, in the quicksand of anger. So I want to talk about how do we build emotional strength, build the emotional muscle so that we can touch anger and then move on. We don't have to get sucked into it.
Wonderful. So why do some kids take that calm down glitter jar, so to say, and shake it across the room?
Okay, because, and this goes into the idea. So this goes into step 2, which is come off, well, it goes into the idea that because anger is such a vulnerable emotion, and anger, the emotion is different from how we express our anger. There are healthy expressions of anger, and then there are unhealthy expressions of anger. But what happens is, because anger is such a powerful emotion, what happens is, if we have an unhealthy expression of anger, like chucking the glitter jar across the room, it gets blended with anger, the emotion. So we think anger is bad. Does that make sense? And our kids think anger is bad, which is why they don't want to hear you say the word anger. But if we pull these things apart, then that builds some safety for our kids. So a kid that makes, like, is able to sit down in a calm moment and make that glitter jar with you, they cognitively get the importance of using a calm down jar. However, in that moment, when they are upset and they take that calm down jar that you've just handed them, you're like, look, shake your calm down jar. And they chuck that across the room. It's because, one, they're trying to protect themselves from feeling that anger. And second, they need to know that they have impact in their world. So the idea of shaking the calm down jar, they're like, okay, I see the jar moving, but I don't feel like I'm having impact. Remember what I said at the beginning about anger is a powerful emotion? So to have balance, it needs a powerful action. What they're doing is, their powerful action is chucking the glitter jar across the room. That's not what we want. What we can do, so I can share one idea for what we can do here as well. What we want to do instead is support them in coming off of this. Then they throw that glitter jar around the room. Then they're like, oh, I need to never get angry ever again, because look what I just did. Now parents upset and I'm upset and everybody's upset and they feel bad. That continues the anger cycle. So instead, what we can do is, we want to support them in seeing how they have impact in healthy ways. So instead, you can write down on a piece of paper something like, I'm here. Slide it under the door if they've shut a door between you and them, or just hand it to them. Now, what they might do, Rachel, and this is where parents are always like, yeah, if I did that, my kid would rip it up, or they'd crumple it in a ball and throw it back at me. So it's not going to work. And what I love to say to parents is, actually, that right there, if they rip up that piece of paper, if they crumple that paper up, that's not it didn't work. Actually, that is the sign that it did work. Because what your child has just done is ripped up a piece of paper that was okay to rip up. They've crumpled up a piece of paper that was okay to crumple up. So they have now just expressed their anger in a healthy way. When that happens, that's not a failure. That's a win, because you've just supported them in that moment. That's like their calm down jar. Does that make sense? So you can do it again. You write on that piece of paper again, hey, something's not okay. I'm here. And you slide it back over to them. They rip that one up too. Awesome. because now they're able to see their impact. Would you be willing to try it with me,
Please,
Rachel?
please. Yes, yes. Let's try.
Okay. Do you have a piece of scrap paper around you, something that you might not need?
Okay.
I'm gonna find one on my end. Okay, I've got one. There's writing on one side, but not on the other. Do you have something?
Okay. Yeah, I've got a paper here with me. Yeah.
Okay, so hold up your paper.
Mm-hmm.
And for those at home watching this, go grab a piece of paper. It can be a receipt that's in your wallet, like a paper receipt that you're like, oh, I would throw this away anyway. It can be something, a post-it note that you've written on you no longer need. All we're
Okay.
going to do is we're going to take this, Rachel,
Right.
and now on the count of three, let's rip it up. You ready with me?
Yeah. Go on.
3, 2, 1, go. Rip. And if you'd like, Rachel, we can have someone make a little sound. Go. Okay? If sounds ridiculous, go ahead. There. Uh-huh.
Repeat it.
Uh-huh. Ripping it. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, notice how your body feels after ripping it.
Wow. It's as if you are releasing something, isn't it? The steam inside you.
When I work with parents, I often say, like, wow, I feel more alive. It was like something opened up my life force energy by ripping up that piece of paper.
Yeah.
Because this piece of paper that we ripped up, it's never going to be the same ever again, right?
Yeah.
Right? So this is impact right here. And we all have a backlog of anger because we all have a backlog. None of us get our needs met perfectly in reality, right? We all know what fear feels like. So this helps us process some of that.
Mm.
It helps us release, and it's a healthy way because we haven't destroyed something that's important or valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
We very clearly chose something that we're like, okay, this is something that's garbage anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're not even wasting. We're just like, that would have ended up in the garbage. Here, I rip it up. So same thing for our kids. If we let them rip up a piece of paper, that feels a lot better to them. This is how we build genuine safety because now they don't have to feel ashamed of their actions. They
Mm.
don't have to feel bad that if they throw that glitter jar, they later feel bad that they threw that glitter jar when everything is settled. That's kind of funny, settled, the glitter jar. They feel bad. And so with this, they don't feel bad, especially when you then hand it back to them and you're like, here, go for it again.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It does. So how long will this go for if you keep giving them sleeping paper? How long should this go for? Maybe 2 times, 3 times? What do you think?
You know what? It's different for every kid. It's absolutely, you might have a kid that you slip them a piece of paper and they're like, oh, that felt really good. They might not rip it up. But either way, what you've done is you've met the need because you've seen them. And oftentimes with anger, when a child gets dysregulated with anger, the verbal sense, auditory, processing auditory information and being able to speak is the first sense that goes. Like they aren't able to speak normally. They're yelling. They're also not able to hear you. So any words that you say really aren't getting through anyway. Parents are like, I'm trying to calm them down, but nothing's working.
Hmm.
So instead, by writing on the piece of paper, it allows them to process what you're saying. And if they're not able to read yet, you just draw a picture for them. You draw a picture of you and a picture of them. And maybe you show them with like their arms folded. It can be a stick figure drawing and facing away from you. And so it lets them know that you're seeing them, that they're known, that their anger is known. They don't have to try to hide it, and it's known in a safe way.
Wow. I don't know if I can ask this. I think this will work well with um children under the age of 10, I'm guessing. But
Mhm,
when you have a grown up like 15, 16, do you think this
mhm.
will work with them as well?
You mean writing something and letting them rip it up?
Yes, yeah.
It depends on where they are.
Okay.
There are all sorts of different approaches. So, for example, with my teenager, so this is all about going nonverbal and allowing. So, the thing with anger is we feel the emotion, we react to it right away. There is zero space between the two, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned like that we want to find a way to pull them apart so that we can feel the feeling and then find how do we want to respond to it instead of react to it, right?
Mm.
So sometimes going nonverbal, if they're not able to process information, it's putting in small pauses for them. So you can do this with teenagers. Maybe it's text messages,
Oh,
but sometimes we feel that need to try to resolve everything right away. So we're like, "Oh, I need to stay texting them until they're all better." But instead, it's something like saying, like, "Hey, get it? Something's not all right." And maybe in the text message you say, "Hey, I'm here. Do you want to talk through it? Or I can go I'll go finish up the dishes and then check back in with you." And what we're doing is we're building their emotional muscle now. We're letting them know that, hey, they're angry, but it doesn't need to be, oh my gosh, we need to react until it's resolved. There's time and space where we will sort out what's going on. We will handle it. We've got this. And it doesn't need to be this kind of desperate energy around it. It is important. It matters. And we've got the time and space we need to sort it out.
wonderful. Thank you. And this will lead me to the last question. Why do some kids seem to settle only after the parent trying so hard to be calm finally snaps back to?
That's a great question. So I'm going to answer that one. And then I'd love to go into the third key as well, because I've shared two, but I haven't gone into explaining the third one. So the reason why, because sometimes parents are like, oh, I know. I just need to be more patient next time. If I'm more patient, then they'll feel my calm
Hmm.
and they'll co regulate with my calm energy. Right. And sometimes we have that kids where it feels like they're poking. And then we finally stop and we're like, okay, stop. And then they oddly settle. Have you ever had that experience, Rachel, with a child
Yeah,
or
yeah.
an adult? Okay. And so when that happens, it's because that child, in some ways, remember I mentioned there's a fear underneath. The fear there is I'm the only one that's upset. I'm all alone. I'm on the outside. I don't belong because I'm angry. Me and my anger are in exile. So like, let me get somebody else angry. Now we're both sitting in anger together. Aha, you're angry too. So I have belonging. The underlying need is belonging, to know that their anger belongs. So they try to get somebody else angry so that they're not alone. They've got that belonging, but it doesn't actually satisfy and satiate the need because they got the belonging by getting you angry.
Hmm.
So now they're like, oh, but now my parents angry. Ooh, this doesn't feel good. It's like it's what they wanted, but not what they wanted at the same time. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so instead, that's why they'll poke and poke till you explode. When you explode, they're like, you felt my anger too. They just have a need to be felt, to be known, to be sensed. They need to know that their anger is safe, can be felt by another person, can be sensed, can be known by another person. So oftentimes for these kids, they're not going to settle if we're calm and neutral because they're like, you don't feel me. You
Yeah.
don't get what's going on for me. You don't get how important this thing is because there you are all calm. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Actually, it's not about us not having an emotion. That's not regulation. Regulation is being able to express our emotions in healthy ways and not get stuck in them. Does that make sense? And then take the action that we need to back up whatever it was that we're feeling to support us with it. So for these kids, they need to know that you feel them.
Mm.
Now, if we snap, it doesn't feel good to us and it doesn't feel good to them. Like
No.
if we say something like, hey, you know what? Oh my gosh, I'm so like maybe they share something with you and you're like, oh, I'm so annoyed that this, or I wouldn't even say annoyed or frustrated, or ooh, that wasn't what we wanted. Oh my gosh, it just even hearing that happened with you guys makes me want to go, and and now what I did is I embodied it. I went, like that. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? And I'm like, oh, it just makes me want to go, because I want to help. I'm not sure how, kiddos. And when you do that, you're showing them that their anger is sensed, it's felt, it's known. Does that make sense? But you've also done it in a way that's regulated, that's solid, secure, and stable, because you didn't get angry. What you did is you showed that you let yourself show the frustration with the situation. And so that allows them to know that you felt them and they don't need to poke anymore. So,
Wow. 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 You will agree with me that we need more of this. We need more of this. Thank you very much, Sonali, for what you have shared with us. And I'm open
welcome.
more, you know, uh, so that,
Could I go into the third key real quick just to share
yes,
the
yes,
concept of it? Okay, the third P is that emotional quicksand, which I think is a really tender one for many parents and caregivers because we're like, oh my gosh, if my child gets angry, it's going to take down the day.
Mm.
And so this is where we want to support them in building their emotional muscle. And it goes back, there's a concept called the emotional backpack. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, the idea is, and I've got my daughter's backpack over here, so I'm going to use it. Um, is that our kids have an emotional backpack, and when it gets really full or heavy, they need to empty it
Oh.
because carrying this thing around gets really heavy, and so they need to empty it, like literally, like dump out all those emotions so
Mm.
that their backpack is light. Now, for some kids, we talked about the cycle of anger with the second key. They just like when they dump it out. Have you ever cleaned up your like tried to clean up a drawer in your home and you dump out everything in the drawer and then all of a sudden you realize, wait, it's 6:30, I need to make dinner. So you shove everything back in, right? And nothing's actually gotten organized. That's what our kids are doing. That's why they get on that cycle of anger because they didn't actually meet the needs. What I found is that I really like backpacks. They help me carry stuff around that I don't need right now, like a water bottle, like a physical backpack, maybe some tissues, maybe a pen and paper that I might need later, right?
Yeah.
I backpacks are super useful. And so I like to approach the emotional backpack concept as it's a useful thing. Like we can touch an emotion
Mm-hmm.
and move on, and
Mm.
we don't have to get stuck in it. So it's the idea that like we could say to our kids, like, hey, you know what? That thing happened. All right, we resolved it. Here we go. And now, you know what? It feels good that we handled it. And now we can move on and we can have a fun day. And teaching them that idea that they don't have to get stuck in the emotion, that there is a way that they can, even if it hasn't been fully processed, they can put it in their backpack. If there's more that they need to process, it'll come out later. They can take it out. But especially for strong willed kids and sensitive kids, sometimes they feel like that idea of like processing an emotion perfectly that you need to get it all out to feel good
Mm.
when actually it's okay to walk around with some things in our backpack. I'm sure there are things that have happened to you where you're like, ooh, I've kind of handled that but not fully handled that, but okay, you know what, moving on. Does that make sense?
Right. Okay. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much, Sonali. Please, as we round up, can you share with us what you plan to give to people for their free gifts with the
Absolutely. Yeah. So, this concept of holding both your needs and your child's needs is the core of what I bring to parents. And so, I'd like to take that concept and take any challenge and filter it through this concept. So, I did that with the struggle with screen time because every parent, I think, and every caregiver is like, oh my gosh, how do I get my kid off their screen? So I created a resource. It's called The Parent's Guide to Tackling Tech Troubles, where I talk about what are those three scenarios that I lay out three scenarios you might have. Like when you've got the negotiator who's like, ooh, what is the negotiator? Hang on one second. The negotiator says, can I have more? Can I have more? Can I have more? Can I have more time? 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes.
Mm.
And what's going on? What does your child actually need? They're saying they need more time, but what is it they actually need underneath? And what do you need? And how can we meet both of those needs in a way and move forward together? So I lay out three different scenarios, like the negotiator, and then my solutions. And that's available for parents and caregivers here.
Wonderful. So that will make us to be a good negotiator, isn't it? With our kids. Oh, thank you very much, Nali. We hope to have you in another episode soon. As for now, we are rounding up this time. Thank you very much. Dear audience, we'd like to end this episode here, and we hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you everyone for joining. Bye, Sonali. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everyone. Bye.